Well, funny thing about the Dead Sea Scrolls is that I came to Cal State Long Beach, which is now one of the biggest campuses in California. It's about maybe 35,000 students or so. It's a people's university. It's getting more expensive, but it wasn't expensive in those days. It was basically free.
About when was that?
That was early 70s.
Okay.
I've been teaching in Israel at the Hebrew University and the University of Tel Aviv. But I was mostly doing Islam because that's the sort of thing I had studied in graduate school for my dissertation, Islamic law. And, but I'd done Middle East studies generally. And I knew a lot about the scrolls, so I'd done some work in Hebrew and Near East studies and for my MA at NYU. That was at Columbia University where I did the other work. So I got to Cal State Long Beach, and it was really a shock because I'd never been to a people's university. And when I came in, I asked the dean, I came straight from the airport from Israel, well, where's the faculty club? And they looked at me and, what, are you crazy, faculty club? We got a bowling alley for the students here, but that's about all we got here. So one of the deans took me home, and I began to adjust a bit, and it was very kind of him, and I got to know the students there. We had a curriculum there where you got 4 courses a term. And if you didn't want to go crazy, you better create some good courses. Plus, you better create some good courses that people want to take. Otherwise, they'll cut them and you're back to these large section introductions, which are really boring and bore the students and bore you. Like today it's India, tomorrow it's China, the next day it's Baluchistan or something like that. So I started creating courses that would go, and they had a course called Intertestament Literature on the books. And I said, well, what's that? No one really cares about or even knows intertestament literature, that sort of doctrinary language. I said, let's call that Dead Sea Scrolls. And so I put Dead Sea Scrolls, the Jewish War, and international and intertestament history. And then since I created the course, I had to teach it. And we had courses on the books, New Testament. Okay, New Testament, we needed other things. Put there historical Jesus. Then as I was teaching the New Testament for the first time, I'd never taught it, I discovered the letter to the Galatians. And I was one step ahead of my students. And I had never read the letter to the Galatians, and no one in all my graduate, undergraduate, whatever, MA had ever even mentioned such a. And I looked at this letter, and I said, my God, this is the whole history right here. There are problems, serious problems. There's a guy called James, the brother of Jesus, I never even heard of, and he and this fellow Paul don't get along, don't like each other, and have serious problems, and no one ever talks about this. And you can see it was, a first level source, and it was a personal letter, and it was real. So at the same time I was teaching the Dead Sea Scrolls, and one of my students pointed out to me when I was talking about James that, you have the teacher of righteousness is always called the Tzaddik, or the just one, or the righteous one. And this James you're talking about, his title was the just one or the righteous one. And I said, wait a minute here, So I was teaching these courses term in and term out, and that's the advantage of a large people's university. You have to teach. You can't just go into the ivory tower and do your research topic and stay away from contact with the public. Like in the UC system and most of the high-end universities like Emory or places like Harvard or you name it, Princeton. These guys will teach maybe, if they have to, 3 or 4 courses a year. 3 courses in the UC system, 2 one term, one another, that's all. And so they just teach their specialities. You could never get away with what I got away with, teaching all kinds of crazy things and inventing all kinds of courses. So because I had this need to invent courses and not invent information, but do interesting things, and I began to see tie-ins between them. So I got into the Dead Sea Scrolls because I suddenly realized, my God, James the Just, whom I never even heard of, who I only discovered from reading Galatians, was a righteous teacher type. And he headed a community, which he was called the Tzaddik, and he had a doctrine of righteousness. I said, this is, so I wrote my first paper I never gone to a conference of the Society of Biblical Literature. I entered a paper, James the Just as Righteous Teacher. And that was about 1976 or something. And all that was from my teaching at Cal State Long Beach, because I'd only come in '73. So I learned all that in 3 years at Cal State Long Beach, learning, teaching, having to teach new courses and so on, and doing a very wide curriculum. I was doing Islam too. And so you do Islam, and what do you discover? Oh my God, the dietary laws of Islam are based on James's directives to overseas communities. You wouldn't know that if you were just doing Quran, or if you were just doing the New Testament. You'd have to be doing both courses to see the connections, and that's what the great thing about being able to teach all these courses was. So we didn't get a great salary, and we don't get a lot of respect, and we're not looked upon as the ivory tower, highest academic research institution. But if you're interested in history, culture, and things like that, you couldn't get a better sounding board.